Welcome to New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union. I'm your host, Sean. My thoughts and prayers are with everyone in Florida right now that is facing the barrel of Milton. Milton is the hurricane. It's Category 4, last I heard. It was originally a Category 5 that has got a ton of energy behind it. So keep your powder dry. Honestly, I hope that you were smart enough to get out of the AO because it looks like it's going to be a doozy. That said, I hope you stay strapped or get clapped for those of you in that area, meaning that you always stay strapped because you need to be taking care of yourself. You saw what happened with Helene, or I know I mess up that name every time I bring it up, in South Carolina and Tennessee. You guys are in a worse boat, but you guys have done this a ton. So, my thoughts and prayers are with you. And like I said, I hope you weather the storm well. What do I got for you today? Well, let's just talk about what's been going on in the Supreme Court, which is kind of interesting. And it has a dual-edged sword to us in a lot of ways, but it can also be really good for us in a lot of ways. So what has happened is the oral arguments in the Vanderstock, which is the ghost gun cases, has hit the Supreme Court. And they've listened to the oral arguments, the opening oral arguments for this case. And how this has gone down is the federal government made themselves look like a clown because the Supreme Court justices Alito and Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett, they asked some questions that were kind of poignant. Specifically, Alito brought up what it takes to make an omelet. And if you've paid attention to legal stuff, I've had to do that because of New Mexico Black Rifle Operators Union, trying to keep ahead of what's coming our way. There's a lot of alliteration usually, and a lot of, that's the best way to put it, actually, it's just alliteration. They'll use something as an example, and lawyers, that's what I mean by saying they. Lawyers will use something as an example that is not directly that thing. In this case, Alito brings up the case of an omelet, and he says if you have just the ingredients, if you have eggs, peppers, cheese, the components of an omelet, and they're just sitting in a box or on your shelf, does that make those ingredients an omelet? And the answer is no, obviously, right? Because you have to put some work in to make it an omelet. Okay. One of the other justices, I think this was Amy Coney Barrett, brings up, well, what if we ordered those same ingredients from HelloFresh and the box came, is that itself an omelet? And the ATF basically said, well, yeah, sort of. So what they're doing is conceding that there is some reality here. And what we're trying to get here is, we all know that if you get an 80% receiver, whether it's a pistol or a rifle, you have to have some knowledge, you have to have some tools, you have to do some work to make this into a receiver. Our founding fathers built guns very similarly, when during the Revolutionary War or before the Revolutionary War, and after that time up until manufacturers took up steam and made guns available for people to buy in mass. They usually just made components. They made barrels, they made locks for muzzle-loading type guns. Anyway, you get where the justices were kind of pushing back on the ATF, and the ATF really had no standing. They had no counter to it. Now, this is good if this continues, and we won't know until spring or summer probably for these cases to make it their way all the way through the docket and get on farther down the process with the Supreme Court. So what this is going to do is set the stage, hopefully, for what we're hoping to win. If we don't, though, the vague way that this has been fought has a potential to make every AR-15 illegal, and here's why. Because part of the language talks about, in this case, talks about the completion of a receiver or conversion of a receiver. And the language is very vague because it's trying to encompass 80% receivers. So they're trying to make it as simple of a process that once you do this one thing, which could be just drilling a hole, means that you made a receiver or you converted this firearm into something else. And that's what the slippery slope is for us. Because the AR-15 can be milled, that third hole, so to speak, and the pocket actually has to be reamed for the fire control group also, for the rest of the components, but that's neither here nor there. Once you do that, you actually have converted it into a machine gun, correct? Well, if the AR-15 only takes one or two processes that they deem makes a gun fully convertible into a receiver, that puts us on that standing of that you have a potential to make a machine gun, whether you intend to or not. The chances because the AR-15 is built the way it is, because it can be done, you are in potential of breaking the law because you have that component, which means constructive intent. All you have to do is those one or two operations and you have a machine gun. It's the same argument with the 80% ghost guns as they could use against the machine gun that we don't have. So you see, we got to be very careful about this. We need to keep watching it and see what's going on. But this is what the language of the left, and this is what we're seeing being pushed by leftists that have gotten in control of the ATF. So keep your head on a swivel. Pray for those people that are in harm's way in Milton, because some of them probably should have left and didn't. But more power to them. Like, share, subscribe. Most importantly, be great.